Good evening. Our top story tonight, multiple pro days underway earlier today. We're talking USC, Ohio State, and Alabama, some of the biggest schools in college football putting their prospects on display. We also had Texas earlier today. Can't forget about Texas. And we've got a lot being unveiled about the draft and the draft process. We also have some updates on Mike Williams signing with the New York Jets and so much more on Player Profiler today. And so we are back talking about pro days across the NFL. And Caleb Williams and USC were up today, and the number one overall pick just established himself further that he is going first in the draft. Caleb Williams is that dude. The ball was flying out of his hand. It was magnificent. And in attendance was not only the general manager of the Chicago Bears, but Caleb's future number one wide receiver, maybe number two, depending on your thoughts on DJ Moore. But Keenan Allen flew out to USC, or he probably still lives in California, so probably just drove out to USC to watch the pro day for Caleb Williams, chat it up with his future quarterback, because everyone knows at this point it is going to be Caleb Williams going first overall to the Chicago Bears, and it is going to be beautiful with Keenan Allen in the slot and DJ Moore on the outside and Cole Kmet at tight end. DeAndre Swift catching passes out of the backfield. DeAndre Swift, by the way, going to be rocking number 4 this year for the Chicago Bears. So it was a great day for USC, for Caleb Williams, just establishing further what we already know. And without lifting a finger, without moving a foot, Marvin Harrison Jr. cements what we already know. Marvin Harrison Jr. does not participate at his pro day. We knew this was a possibility, if not likely to happen, with Marvin Harrison Jr. skipping his pro day and the combine, but it's just still disappointing. And I understand why. This is the correct decision for Marvin Harrison. Only negative outcomes can happen for him working out at the combine at his pro day. There is no way for Marvin Harrison to raise his stock even higher. So I understand it, but the fan in me is just disappointed that we don't get to see those workouts, those metrics. And because Marvin Harrison Jr. was not participating, we see no GMs, no head coaches at the Ohio State Pro Day. They all skipped out. They all missed out. Obviously, there were position coaches in attendance. There were scouts in attendance at the Ohio State Pro Day, but it's not the usual Ohio State year that we're used to, like last year, where everyone was at the Ohio State Pro Day coming to watch CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud returned to Ohio State for the pro day. Him and DeWan Jones, the right tackle for the Cleveland Browns, 4th round pick, who ended up playing pretty well before ending his season on the injured reserve list. But the alumni coming back to watch the Ohio State pro day, even without Marvin Harrison Jr. But we did get some information on Marvin Harrison Jr. He visits with the Arizona Cardinals, the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, almost said San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, and the New York Jets. So those are two teams in the top 5. We've got the Cardinals picking at 4. We got the Chargers picking at 5. The Jets, we'll get to this later, but in Daniel Jeremiah's most recent mock draft, he had the Jets trading up to 5th overall to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. So is that in the cards? Because really, is there any world where Marvin Harrison Jr. falls outside the top 5? Even if we get 4 quarterbacks, do the Chargers just automatically take Marvin Harrison, or do they allow a team to trade up? Either way, good news for Marvin Harrison Jr. Speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, Evan Brown signs a 1-year contract to be the new center for the team. They are going through transition on the offensive line. Paris Johnson moving over to left tackle, Jonah Williams at right tackle. Going to be a new offensive line for the Arizona Cardinals. As for the Chargers, who are recruiting Marvin Harrison Jr., we did see MHJ Marvin Harrison Jr. like the depth chart of the Chargers tweeted out by Duvie Kleiman. It's just Quentin Johnston and Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer at this point. Could Marvin Harrison have some assurances that if he's there at 5, the Chargers are taking him? We will wait and see on all of that, and we will be right back after this word from the Podfather.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from PlayerProfiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it. This episode is brought to you by Player Profiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help to strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal.
And we are back talking about pro days. Caleb Williams dominated at his. Marvin Harrison Jr. skips his. JJ McCarthy has yet to have his pro day, but JJ McCarthy is set to visit the New York Giants, or in fact, he already did visit the Giants. He is set to visit the Minnesota Vikings. And when he does have his pro day, the Washington Commanders will be having dinner with JJ McCarthy the night before the pro day. So JJ McCarthy is getting visited and talking to a bunch of teams. Last week when he was with the New York Giants, he met with the general manager. He met with the entire front office. They went out to dinner. And if you're a prospect, you just got to take all of these visits because it's a free dinner every single time at the very least. So JJ McCarthy talking to the New York Giants. Could they take him if he falls to number 6 overall? Is there any chance that he falls to 6 overall? We will see. As for the New York Giants, it was reported that with Russell Wilson, they did not offer Russell Wilson a chance to compete for the starting job. They told Russ that Daniel Jones is the starter, and that's why Russ walked over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, what is up, Applied Literature? Happy to have you on the show. But with Russ not being guaranteed or even offered a chance to compete for the starting job, Drew Lock apparently giving the same treatment. Daniel Jones is the guy. We'll see about that. I do believe that Daniel Jones will not be participating in OTAs and will be missing time throughout training camp more than likely. And so Drew Lock will have the chance to compete without actually competing. Final news and notes about the New York Giants. Isaiah McKenzie going to be wearing number 87 for the team this year. Don't like it at all. Isaiah McKenzie, smaller wide receiver. He's more of a single digit or tens teens type of wide receiver. As for the Minnesota Vikings, who are also in on JJ McCarthy, they signed Shaq Griffin to a 1-year deal worth $6 million. Former cornerback for the Texans, Jaguars, and Seahawks. Vikings also had Jonah Williams, the former Rams defensive lineman, Jihad Ward, the former Giants and Ravens edge defender. He was in Jaguars before that, and Kamu Grugier-Hill, who's been with the Houston Texans and some other teams at linebacker. So the Vikings making some moves to beef up their defense. As for the Commanders, who will be having dinner with J.J. McCarthy before his pro day, they bring back Cornelius Lucas, the swing tackle, on a one-year deal worth up to $4 million. 31 starts the past couple of years for the Washington Commanders because the line has just been in that much disarray, in that much chaos. Moving back to the pro days, though, Texas had their pro day today, and Quinn Ewers was giving them a show. Quinn Ewers throwing at the pro day for his guys. So Quinn Ewers, not only will he have his own pro day in 2024, also participates in the Texas pro day. So good for him. Gets to show off, gets a little bit of a sneak peek. But at this Texas Longhorns pro day, Mike McDaniels was in attendance, and he was meeting with Xavier Worthy, the man who ran 4.21. Mike McDaniel loves his speedy wide receivers, speedy playmakers. Could Xavier Worthy be going to the Miami Dolphins with the 21st overall pick in the NFL draft? Very, very possible. You know how much the Dolphins love their speed. But speaking of Xavier Worthy, he did add 4 pounds since the NFL Combine. Obviously, he wanted to put on a show. He wanted to be light as possible, explosive as possible to break that 40-yard dash record. And then now he's gaining back the muscle mass in order to play in the NFL. Other final note from the Texas Pro Day, Jonathan Brooks, the running back, some people's running back one, coming off the ACL. He will be visiting the Dallas Cowboys. We also know that Jonathan Brooks' ACL surgery was done by the doctor of the Dallas Cowboys. So, we're just connecting those dots here. Jonathan Brooks to the Cowboys in the second round feels like a lock at this point. We also had the Alabama Pro Day today. Brad Holmes was in attendance for the Detroit Lions, their general manager. In fact, we had 5 general managers at the Alabama Pro Day. Brad Holmes from the Lions, Omar Khan from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brandon Beane from the Buffalo Bills, Rand Carthen from the Tennessee Titans, and Brian Gutekunst from the Green Bay Packers. We also had 4 head coaches in attendance for the Alabama Pro Day. We had Mike McCarthy from the Dallas Cowboys. We had Antonio Pierce from the Las Vegas Raiders, Mike Tomlin. So we had both members, highest ranking for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in attendance at the Alabama Pro Day, as well as the top 2 members of the Tennessee Titans, with head coach Brian Callahan joining general manager Rand Carthen at the Alabama Pro Day. And it was quite the show as well. Kool-Aid McKinstry, who everyone thought was cornerback 1 for Alabama, and then Terrion Arnold comes out, has this phenomenal season. Looks like he might be the first cornerback off the board, but Kool-Aid McKinstry looks like he could go in the first round as well. He has a Jones fracture in his foot. He will undergo surgery on Friday, but for now, he goes out and runs a 4.47 on a broken foot. Insane. Absolutely insane. How does that even happen? But Kool-Aid McKinstry proving that he is still an athlete even with a broken damn foot. We also saw Dallas Turner just bench press, improves his bench press, stood on the rest of his numbers. Dallas Turner, edge rusher for Alabama. He has pre-draft visits with the Bears, who are picking at 9 overall. Falcons picking at 8 overall, and the Vikings picking at 11 overall, but we all know the Vikings are trading up for a quarterback. We also got to see J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle who's going in the first round for Bama, Chris Braswell, who will go later in the draft, and Terrion Arnold, who we mentioned earlier. But rounding things out for the NFL draft, we have had some mock drafts dropping lately. Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, as well as Brendan Donahue, the most accurate mocker last 5 years per Huddle Report. And all 5 mock drafts, all 3 mock drafts. I'm too excited, getting stumbled over my words. All 3 mock drafts have 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. Now, it's different quarterbacks. For Daniel Jeremiah, we do see the Raiders take Michael Penix. But for Mel Kiper and Brendan Donahue, we see the Denver Broncos take Bo Nix. And so, even if we don't see a 5th first-round quarterback, which I would be quite shocked at, we do have links for the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. We do have links for the Raiders and Michael Penix. We've also heard that the Seahawks are in on Michael Penix as well. Daniel Jeremiah had 5 wide receivers go in the first round. Adonai Mitchell going 32nd overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Adonai Mitchell is a first rounder in all 3 of these mock drafts. Now, of course, it's a pretty similar top 5 for most people, but Daniel Jeremiah, things get a little bit crazy 4th and 5th. We've got Caleb going first to the Bears. We've got Drake May going second to the Commanders. That is against the norm. And then Jaden Daniels going 3rd overall to the Patriots. Vikings trade up for J.J. McCarthy. And then the Jets trading up for Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, the betting odds don't agree with this, and Mel Kiper and Brendan Donahue both have the Jets selecting tight end Brock Bowers to be their tight end of the future. The odds for Brock Bowers have increased, they've gotten even worse, closer to a negative number, falling from plus 125 to plus 110 after the team signed Mike Williams. Are the Jets looking at adding a new tight end? We will wait and see. But I think that's it. Those were my big takeaways from the NFL draft. Oh, those mock drafts also had the Steelers twice in 2 different mock drafts selecting Brian Thomas Jr. And the latest we saw him going in the 3 mock drafts was 23rd overall to the Cardinals. Brian Thomas Jr. going to be going early in this draft. He's going to be a first-round pick for sure. But speaking of wide receivers and the New York Jets potentially trading up for Marvin Harrison Jr., that would mean he's playing alongside his former teammate in Garrett Wilson, who's going to be wearing number 5 this year. And we're also going to see Mike Williams for the New York Jets, signs a 1-year deal worth up to $15 million. Had the visit with the New York Jets first on his list. Then he was supposed to visit the Steelers and the Panthers. That does not happen. The Jets don't let Mike Williams out of the building. 1 year, up to $15 million. So for now, unless the Jets do trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr., we've got Garrett Wilson on one side. We've got Mike Williams on the other side. Then we've got Alan Lazard versus Xavier Gipson in the slot. So either way, the Jets probably going to need to add another receiver, despite the fact that Bradley Stalder has an Alan Lazard jersey. He is not a thing. He is not it for the New York Jets. More of a wide receiver 4. Hopefully he gets relegated to that role, maybe behind Marvin Harrison Jr. We also have Breece Hall, Tyler Conklin, and Jeremy Ruckert rounding out the offense. Breece Hall a little bit better than those tight ends, but solid tight ends, not spectacular. So could we be looking at Brock Bowers for the New York Jets? Jets have been making some moves, though, making some waves. Jadeveon Clowney visits the Jets earlier today. Maybe he's signed by now. Doesn't appear so just yet. Haven't got that notification yet, but Jadeveon Clowney visiting the New York Jets. 9.5 sacks last season for the Baltimore Ravens. The Jets also re-signed Solomon Thomas, so those 2 would join Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, and John Simpson, free agents on the offensive line. Terod Taylor, the backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers now, as well as Javon Kinlaw, Isaiah Oliver, and Lecky Fotu on the defense. Jets making moves, whether it's the high-end moves to protect Aaron Rodgers, get him weapons, or the depth moves like Javon Kinlaw and Lecky Fotu on the defensive line, Isaiah Oliver at cornerback. The Jets are making moves. As for the Chargers, who no longer have Mike Williams, clearly, it's Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, and maybe they get Marvin Harrison Jr., or maybe it doesn't matter who the wide receiver is. Last time we saw Jim Harbaugh in the NFL, Michael Crabtree was all alone as the wide receiver 1 for the San Francisco 49ers. That was it. Speaking of the San Francisco 49ers, could they be moving on from Brandon Ayuk? We have heard reports that Ayuk is disgruntled. We've seen him and his partner talk about how he could be on his way out. They could have played their last game in San Francisco. We heard a report that the Jacksonville Jaguars were told you can have Brandon Ayuk, but it's going to cost you your first-round pick, 17th overall, as well as Zay Jones. And if that's all it costs, I say do it, because Brandon Ayuk is an all-pro wide receiver, and Zay Jones is shedding salary at this point. So I would absolutely trade the 17th overall pick for Brandon Ayuk to give him a big contract, because at this point, it is clear that good wide receivers don't hit free agency. Christian Kirk's the best wide receiver to hit free agency in a while. Even Jerry Jeudy ends up being traded and then giving a deal. We still haven't seen the full numbers on this deal, but I'm guessing around $16 million per year. And yes, Jerry Jeudy absolutely does hurt the value for Elijah Moore. This is going to be a low volume passing game, no matter what. I think they also added Dante Foreman to the Cleveland Browns. They want to run the football, whether it's Dante Foreman, whether it's Jerome Ford, whether it's Pierre Strong, Naheem Hines as that satellite back, or Nick Chubb does actually play. The Browns are going to want to run the football. And Deshaun Watson, outside of that Ravens game where his shoulder exploded. So maybe he gets healthy again and he shows that he can still sling it, but the wide receiver 2 position for the Browns isn't a position I want anyways. Elijah Moore, probably the wide receiver 3. So I'm not interested in Jerry Jeudy or Elijah Moore more than likely. It's going to be the Amari Cooper show once again. But back to Brandon Ayuk potentially being traded to the Jaguars or the Steelers. He got tweeted at. Mike Tomlin gets tweeted at by Brandon Ayuk saying how they look alike. Steelers reportedly sniffing around on Brandon Ayuk as well. And the Patriots have been linked to Ayuk as well, linked to T. Higgins. Apparently, the Patriots are still in the market for a wide receiver. And so they've got KJ Osborne right now. He's going to be wearing number 2 this season. Outside of that, though, it's Pop Douglas, it's Kendrick Bourne, and it's Jalen Reagor. So the Patriots could absolutely use a Brandon Ayuk. They also could very well take Marvin Harrison Jr. They could trade back because this roster, it's going to be a while before they compete. Moving over to the Kansas City Chiefs, Hollywood Brown already working out with Patrick Mahomes. Love to see that. This offense is going to be even better this year. Hollywood Brown, wide receiver 2 behind Rashee Rice, in my opinion, but allows more room for Rashee Rice to operate underneath. So this is a perfect match and likely prevents the Kansas City Chiefs from drafting a wide receiver at the end of the first round. Maybe they do draft Adonai Mitchell, but even then I'll still take Rashee Rice, what he's doing underneath versus Adonai Mitchell running those wind sprints. Speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce is in the running to host Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader when that show is revived by Amazon Prime. And the Chiefs are still looking at trading L'Jarius Sneed. Apparently, they're getting calls from the Tennessee Titans. They've reportedly offered a third-round pick in 2025 and a 4-year deal worth $80 million. So that'd be $20 million per year to L'Jarius Sneed. But perhaps the Kansas City Chiefs are just calling around and taking these calls for L'Jarius Sneed to see what the price tag actually is and whether or not they will re-sign him themselves. So we'll keep an eye on the Tennessee Titans. The Colts reportedly also in the running, but for now, L'Jarius Sneed still with the Kansas City Chiefs. Baltimore Ravens, who suffered that devastating loss in the AFC Championship to the Kansas City Chiefs, will have Michael Gallup coming for a visit. The former Dallas Cowboys wide receiver was cut, and this is a classic Baltimore Ravens move. They love going after the guys that aren't going to impact the compensatory pick formula, guys that were cut. Love signing these veterans, especially at wide receiver. We're probably a little bit dusty at this point. It worked out with Steve Smith. Hasn't worked out plenty of other times. We're looking at you, Odell Beckham Jr. We're looking at you, TJ Hushmanzada. We're looking at you, Lee Evans. We're looking at so many other veteran, Jeremy Maclin back in the day for the Baltimore Ravens. It did work out with Steve Smith. I don't think Michael Gallup is Steve Smith. Probably dusty at this point in his career, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens with Michael Gallup. Speaking of the wide receiver position, though, we are going to get a new series about the wide receivers. It's going to feature Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle on Netflix's Receiver, the sequel to Quarterbacks. Remember, we couldn't get anyone to sign up to be on quarterback this year. So they went to wide receivers, and that will be debuting on Netflix. I'm excited to see that and see how it all shakes out. Other news and notes, speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, A.J. Dillon. Oh, I was hoping A.J. Dillon would go to the Cowboys. I just living in an alternate universe. Anyways, that's not the Dallas Cowboys. That's the Green Bay Packers. He's back with the Packers, and it's a $2.58 million deal in base salary. Obviously, there's incentives there, but A.J. Dillon is only guaranteed $167K. That's all it would cost to cut A.J. Dillon before the season starts. So A.J. Dillon, no lock for the roster in Green Bay. This does not prevent them from drafting a running back. So keep your eye on that. There's no loyalty to A.J. Dillon given this contract with the Green Bay Packers. We also saw Ty Johnson re-sign with the Buffalo Bills. At quarterback, we saw Josh Dobbs come to San Francisco to be Brock Purdy's backup. And for the Rams, we saw Jimmy G officially sign his 1-year deal worth $4.5 million to be the backup quarterback to Matthew Stafford. Going to miss those first 2 games of the season. Saw some other moves across the offensive line. The Bengals bring in right tackle Trent Brown. They now have probably the biggest offensive tackle combination in NFL history. Left tackle Orlando Brown Jr., 6'8", 345. Right tackle Trent Brown, listed at 6'8", 370 pounds. These are mammoths on the offensive line. The Cincinnati Bengals improve their offensive line. Joe Burrow gets an upgrade in front of him, hoping to keep him healthy. Detroit Lions do the same thing. They signed Kevin Zeitler to a one-year deal worth $6 million, so he'll be their right guard. They'll kick Graham Glasgow over to left guard. That was vacated by Jonah Jackson, their former Pro Bowler who moves to the Los Angeles Rams, making $17 million this year and on average per year, whereas the Lions' two starting guards cost $12.6 million. Graham Glasgow averaging $6.6 million per year. $12.6 million for two guards for the Detroit Lions, or $17 million for one who missed a large portion of last season. Brad Holmes putting on another masterclass. It is absolutely beautiful. As for the New Orleans Saints, Chase Young is officially set to undergo neck surgery. So the Saints signed Chase Young, and it's uncovered that he can't pass a physical, and so he's going to undergo neck surgery. This is something that happened this season. He suffered a neck injury, a stinger. I think it was against the Cleveland Browns. And then it's revealed with the MRIs that he is going to have to undergo surgery. Is expected to be back for the start of the season. But the Saints have built this into his contract. He gets $5 million guaranteed. But the rest of the contract, the rest of that $13 million, $7.99 million is tied to per game roster bonuses. So in order to reach almost $8 million, Chase Young has to be active. Wish him the best. Hope he heals up and hope he is able to play for the New Orleans Saints starting in week 1. We also got an update on Cedric Wilson. He is set to wear number 11 for the New Orleans Saints, while Kenny Pickett, who the Saints did try to trade for, the Saints offered a 5th-round pick and a future late-round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and instead they obviously go with the Eagles' offer to move up a couple picks and get another 3rd-rounder. So Kenny Pickett going to wear number 16 for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's an interesting offseason. It has been absolutely wild to follow along. Kenny Pickett trade absolutely shocked me. Justin Fields landing with the Pittsburgh Steelers to replace him absolutely shocked me. And just keep in mind, Justin Fields is the backup to Russell Wilson. That's how it's being phrased. That's how it's being reported. But there are whispers out today that the Pittsburgh Steelers could cut Russell Wilson if in training camp it doesn't work out. If they see he's not the guy, this could become Justin Fields' team before week 1. Now, I don't think that happens, but just keep your eye that there's no loyalty to Russell Wilson, no loyalty to Justin Fields, no loyalty to anyone for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you, allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.